Hopefully I can give you some useful bits of knowledge today, some things that I've learned over the years from many of the wonderful tradesmen that I've worked with, and some things that I've seen online, and hopefully give you a little bit of our insider trade knowledge that can make fitting your kitchen that little bit easier. Now, first things first, you will have been to your chosen manufacturer and you will have got a design for your kitchen, you've ordered it, you've spent way too much money, but you've got your dream kitchen about to be delivered. Now, when it is delivered, this can be somewhat overwhelming and somewhat intimidating, as I don't know if you've had a kitchen delivered in the past, it is about 1 million boxes. It's full, you'll have a room, you'll have 2 rooms absolutely full of stuff, and it can be a little bit daunting on where to start. Now, me personally, the first thing I like to do is lay out all the big bulky parts of the kitchen. So that would be getting all of my base units in place, roughly laid out to about where they're going to be fitted, okay? And then once that's done, they're all unpackaged, ready to go. The first thing you need to do is put legs on those units. Now, getting your units perfectly level will mean that when it comes to every other aspect of fitting your kitchen, it will be miles easier, okay? So take the time at the start to make sure everything is level, everything is true, and exactly where it needs to be, and it means when it comes to fitting your internals, fitting your doors, fitting your panels, and then your worktops afterwards, it makes that whole process a lot easier. One piece of equipment, one tool that I think is essential when doing this is a laser level. If you haven't already got a laser level, I'd very much recommend if you're going to fit a kitchen, you go and pick one up. They're not overly expensive these days. You can go to Screwfix and the like and pick one up for 30, 40 quid, but I promise you it'll be a purchase that definitely makes the process a whole lot easier. And it actually leads me into my first tip of the day on how to get all your units nice and level and spend minimal amount of time on the floor with your arm up the back of a unit trying to adjust a leg on a carcass. So what I like to do is, as I've mentioned, I've laid out all my units in place, I've flipped them all over, and I've turned the units upside down and put all the legs in place. Now, we have to find a point of where we're going to get all our units level and at the right height. The first thing you need to do in your kitchen is check your floor with a normal spirit level or whatever. You can do it with a tape measure. Check where your high spot is on the floor, where you're going to be laying your kitchen. The reason why this is important is because you've only got a certain amount of plinth height to work with. So you want to work out your overall height from the highest point in your kitchen of where that might land. And all you need to do is take into consideration the thickness of your worktop. So whether it's a laminate, whether it's a compact or a quartz or whatever, remove the thickness of your worktop away from 900 millimeters, and that will then give you the perfect datum point. Mark it on the wall of where you want to set your laser level. This will give you the height of all your units going round, whether you've got a high point or a low point. Once your units are in place, you've put your legs on, and all you need to do then is wind your legs up until they break the laser level line. That way, when you flip your unit over, it will be almost perfect, ready at the exact right height. Okay? Honestly, if you spent enough time with your arm up the back of units or sending the apprentice under as I normally used to, you will really appreciate this one, as it will save you a bit of back pain. It also is a really good way of quickly moving around your kitchen, get everything in place, get everything nice and level, screw it all together, and one of the biggest parts of the kitchen, the layout, is then done, and it takes away a little bit of that feeling of being overwhelmed. Now, setting up your laser in the kitchen is another tip that I've got for you here. Lots of them will come with a tripod or with a friction pole or whatever. Some people try and stack up boxes and balance it at the right height, but what you do at that point is, one, it's very easy to knock it and get it out of position, and that can then throw off your level around your kitchen. But two, you've got no room for adjustment on those things without making major adjustments. And this simple tip can actually get over that. So what I do is I go to a doorway in the kitchen, I use a quick grip clamp and a normal saw, and I use the magnetic fittings on the back of the level to fix the laser. Now, whether you're fitting your wall units or your floor units, this works just as well, but it actually gives you around 400 mil, the length of the saw, that you can slide it up, slide it down, get it in exactly the right place, and because it's in the doorway and not in the middle of the room, you are less likely to knock it, move it, and end up with wonky units. Now, we've moved on to the wall units. Now, this is something that is a little bit more difficult to get started with, a little bit more difficult than fitting the base units. Take your time when fitting unit number 1. Get that in exactly the right place, get it nice and level. And there are 2 main ways that you can be fitting your wall units. Some of the more budget-friendly kitchens will have a fixing bracket on the back that you put a receiver on the wall and you hook them on top of it. Again, using our laser level, we can make sure that we put that line all the way around so you don't have to measure off the ceiling, you don't have to measure off your units, and you can go around and put all your brackets in place and hook your units on. If you're buying a little bit more of a higher end kitchen, a lot of them now have a solid back to the units, okay? And these solid backs are perfect for fixing directly through to your walls and getting a really, really solid fixing, so that when you pack these units full of plates, full of cups, all the heavy things that you put in them, that we as tradespeople say, please don't overload your wall units, and you all ignore us, you can make sure that these don't come flying off the wall and cause any damage. But even if you are as strong as me, putting your wall units up by yourself or with another person can be a little bit difficult. So what you need is an extra pair of hands. And how you can gain that is by using this simple tip here. Holding it in place, getting it level whilst you fix it can be difficult. But if you apply 2 small brackets or metal tabs, or even it can be a piece of scrap wood to the top of your unit, plant it straight on top of the one that's already fixed and solid in place, it takes minimal effort. A quick grip clamp can hold it in place while you take your time and then get it fixed back to the wall. It's also a good way of connecting your units at the top. You've got to screw these units together anyway, so don't worry about there being an extra hole or whatever. This is actually adding another layer of secure fixing from one unit to another, and it makes the job a lot easier. Now, we've got all our units in place and we are coming to one of the more intimidating parts of fitting the kitchen. And the reason why it's intimidating is because you need some fancy tools to do it, but it's also probably one of the most expensive parts of your kitchen, your worktop. So whether you're going for a nice laminate top, or whether you're going for a resin or a compact, whether you're going for some hard wood, obviously quartz, you're letting them template it and do it so you don't have to worry about it. But if you're fitting your own worktops, any of the previous ones that I've mentioned, this is a really good tip on how you can do your cutouts without damaging your very expensive worktop. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to tape out my cutout. So this is for your sink, for your hob, for your base mounted extractors, which have become really popular. So anything that you've got to cut out through your worktop before installation. I like to tape out the cutout so that when I'm cutting from above, that I don't get any breakout in that laminate surface on top. Now I'm using a plunge saw here. Don't feel the need to go out and buy an expensive plunge saw because they are very expensive. If you've got one, it's the best way of doing it. If you haven't, there are various other ways depending on what equipment you've got. You can drop a circular saw down through the top if you put a slot in it. You can drill a hole in the corner and come back from that with a jigsaw, or you can put several holes to make a slot and come at it with a handsaw and do the job just as well. That's not what I'm trying to teach you here. What I'm actually going to do is give you a tip on how, when we get to the corners and we finish cutting out this big heavy piece of wood, how we can support that without it dropping through and breaking at the corners, which are the weak points, until it's installed. And the best way of doing that is to add a scrap piece of wood. So what I'm going to do now is screw this piece of wood to the cutout, to the bit that's being removed. That way, it is bracing it, it is holding it in place so that when I finish the cut, I'm not having to put my hand underneath where I'm running a blade, where I'm running a tool. I'm not asking someone else to hold it, so you're not going to have an argument over who dropped it and who ruined the worktop. That piece of wood holds it in place and you can just lift it out at your ease, drop your worktop in place, and you've got a perfect cutout with no damage on your worktop, and you can feel like an absolute professional. Now, lastly, kitchen plinths. We've got facilities running through our kitchen. We've got pipes, we've got cables, lots of people are having LEDs and things like that nowadays. Some people have stopcocks for their water underneath. You need to be able to get your plinths off after they're installed. Now, if you don't want to leave a gap that's big enough to put your fingers in, because from a certain angle you might be able to see there's a gap, what we do is, some people use a little suction cup. If you haven't got one of those, this is a tip that can actually make getting your kitchen plinths off really easy without you having to jam a screwdriver or a chisel or anything like that in there and potentially damaging your nice new expensive kitchen. This here is a metal brick tie. It is basically a thick piece of wire. Okay, so a coat hanger, anything like that will work. All you need to do is add a hook to the end of it, slot it in through that tiny little gap, reach in and pull it out. This is something I've done a million times because I'm sick of seeing electricians and plumbers going at my kitchens with a screwdriver, with a chisel, trying to prise them off and potentially causing damage. Okay, this is just a handy little tip on how you can get your plinths off really nice and easy with stuff that you've got at home. Another alternative to this would be an Allen key. If you put an Allen key through and turn it, it's got a natural hook on there. Even if you grab the end of it with a pair of pliers and pull it, you can get your plinths off nice and easy without any damage. Has anybody got any questions that would like to ask me? I'm here to help. Anything that you might want to know, if I can help you, I will. Yes, sir. I'll come into the crowd. This is my Jerry Springer moment. We haven't got a crowd mic yet, but next time we will have one.
Okay, I've recently fitted a kitchen.
Yep.
And I still struggle with profiling decor end panels on the ends of the kitchen units. Any tips?
I've got a tip for that. So for those of people who didn't hear that, the gentleman wants to know how he can profile the end, how he can scribe a deco end panel to a wall, potentially around a piece of skirting board or something like that. Tools are the key to that one. And I've got two tools here in this amazing prize bundle that you can win here today at the Home Building and Renovation Show, which I'll come on to in a minute. So this is something called a contour gauge, and I'm going to open it now so you can see. These are very common. You can get them at all your DIY stores, your screw fixes and things like that. So this is something called a contour gauge. Okay, so this moves. So you push it up against the surface, lock it off. You imagine if that was the shape of your skirting, you then put that on your decor end panel, on your skirting or whatever, draw around it, and that gives you the perfect shape to cut round. This here is a scribing tool. This does the same thing. It looks a bit like a compass. So you set your compass at the width of the material that you're going to do. So if it's 18 mil, you set it at 18 mil. You put one end of the compass against the surface, the other end against your decor panel, and it draws your perfect line around it, like I'm sure you've seen the videos for online. Do check out online on YouTube, on Instagram, things like that. There are lots of really good tips on how to do scribes, how to do with these kind of tools. Okay, so search online if you're looking for specifics, and if you are signed up to the DIY Doctor YouTube channel as a subscriber, I will make sure there is a video on there in the coming weeks for how to scribe round panels. Has anybody got any other questions? Joining your worktops. Yes, so joining the worktops, you need a jig for doing that mitre. You need a worktop mitre jig to be able to do it. You also need a high powered router to do it, a 1/2 inch collet. This is one of those things that I'll say to people, if you're looking to do this, you're going to have to buy the good equipment so that you can do it. Is it worth at that point weighing up how much it would cost to hire a carpenter to come for the day to join the worktop if you've done all the rest of the work yourself and save money on the installation? Personally, I think so. But if you do want to have a go at it, again, you'll have to look online for a specific demonstration on how to do that. It's not something I can really explain. You've got to make sure you've got the good equipment. Unfortunately, the jig and the router will cost you several hundreds of pounds, which is why I suggest weighing that up against what it would cost for a tradesperson to come for that day. They've already got the tools and equipment. They'll charge you a day rate to do your joins on your mitres, and it might save you a bit of headache and a bit of hassle, and might mean that you end up with a better job overall. It's probably not a DIY task is what I'd say, unless you are particularly competent. But yeah, any other questions? Anything else I can help with? No? I will be around for a couple of minutes afterwards if there is something you want to come and grab me about. Before you go, if you want to take a look at, not that one, it's gone. This speaker over here, there is a QR code. If you scan that QR code and sign up to the DIY Doctor newsletter today, that puts you in the hat for a chance to win this fantastic prize bundle, which I know full well there are some items in there that you need for fitting your next kitchen. Thank you very much. See you later.